Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Haribo, 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 Dola Haribo, Nitai Dola Haribo, 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 Dola Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Shri Radha Damodara ki jai, Grantara Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Where else can you?
Where else can you double the audience? Just saying.
Yeah. Indeed. So, Hare Krishna, everyone. All of you who are online, welcome. I am speaking for those of you who are not here at Gita Nagari or near Gita Nagari. I'm speaking from Gita Nagari in Pennsylvania. And today is, what is today? Today is the first day of Kartik Masa. So, very special day. Very special month. Ooh, that's very loud, no? Oh. All right. And on this special day, we're going to celebrate by reading Srimad-Bhagavatam and discussing Srimad-Bhagavatam. And we're going to end a bit early today because there will be offering of the Damodarashtaka prayers, and I presume also offering of deepas. Yes. And so the schedule is slightly adjusted for that purpose. It's 7:07 in the morning here in Gita Nagari. So a good time of day. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Vishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha gopika kanta radha kanta namostute. Tapta kanchana gaurangi radhe vrindavaneshwari rishabhanusute devi pranamami haripriye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. This morning we're reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, the forest of enjoyment, in which Bharata, who had been known as Jara Bharata, dull Bharata, is enlightening a certain king known as Rahugana. There are several chapters of this discussion. And Rahugana has become a very receptive student to Bharata. To his surprise, he finds that Bharata is a greatly, deeply wise person, a devotee, and his interest, Hare Krishna, his eagerness to understand ultimate reality, transcendental knowledge has been awakened. And we are benefited by hearing from Bharat, who is speaking not in verse poetry, but in prose, in these verses, which are not verses, they're prose. So we're reading verse number 4, in which he says, yathā hi anuvatsaram kṛṣyamāṇam api adagdha-bījaṁ kshetram punar eva āvapana-kāle gulma-tṛṇa-vīrudbhir gahvaram iva bhavaty. Evam eva gṛhā-āśramaḥ karma-kṣetram yasmin nahi karmāṇy utsīdanti yat ayaṁ kāma-karaṇḍa esha āvasathaḥ. And the word for word, yathā, just as, he, certainly anuvatsaram, every year, kṛṣyamāṇam, being plowed, api, although adagdha-bījaṁ, in which the seeds are not burned, kṣetram, the field, punaḥ, again, eva, certainly, āvapana-kāle, at the time for sowing the seeds, gulma, by bushes, tṛṇa, by grasses, vīrudbhiḥ, by the creepers, gahvaram, like a bower, bhavaty, becomes evam, thus eva, certainly, gṛha-āśramaḥ, family life, karma-kṣetraṁ, the field of activities, yasmin, in which not he, certainly, karmāṇy, utsīdanti, fruit of activities disappear. Yet, therefore, ayaṁ, this, kāma-karaṇḍa, the storehouse of fruit of desire, eśah, this, āvasathaḥ, abode. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: every year the plowman plows over his grain field, completely uprooting all weeds. Nonetheless, the seeds lie there and, not being completely burned, again come up with the plants sown in the field. Even after being plowed under, the weeds come up densely. Similarly, here it comes. gṛhāśramaḥ, family life, is a field of fruitive activity. Unless the desire to enjoy family life is completely burned out, it grows up again and again. Even though camphor may be removed from a pot, the pot nonetheless retains the aroma of camphor. As long as the seeds of desire are not destroyed, fruitive activities are not destroyed. And Srila Prabhupada's purport, which is shorter than his translation. Unless one's desires are completely transferred to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the desire for family life continues, even after one has taken sannyasa. Sometimes in our society, ISKCON, a person out of sentiment may take sannyasa, but because his desires are not burned completely, he again takes to family life, even at the risk of losing his prestige and disgracing his good name. These strong desires can be burned out completely when one fully engages in the service of the Lord in devotional service. And so ends Prabhupada's purport, which is highlighting an aspect of some ISKCON history, of which many of us may be aware, some of the less fortunate history within our society of persons who have taken to the sannyas ashram and then later have given it up. Actually, there are traditions, as a footnote, it may be interesting. There are traditions in Buddhism of where one takes vows which are not expected to be lifelong, and they have rituals for ending the vows, and it's completely accepted, it's completely legitimate, and it's not shameful. One can take vows for a certain time. Of course, we have this also in our tradition in a sense, with brahmacharya. One takes, in a sense, not a formal vow of brahmacharya, but there's a kind of commitment there, which then one may end, and in fact, it's generally expected that one will end the brahmachari practice at some point and take take to family life. But let's go to the verse and consider the analogy that Jadabharata is giving, that of plowing a field, which is quite relevant for here at Gita Nagari, where fields are presumably plowed at certain times of the year. The analogy is the field of a farm and the field of the physical bodily existence. In the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the body, sharira, and the word sharira, there are many words for body, but the word sharira specifically indicates that which will collapse, that which will be destroyed, is identified or is identified with kshetram. Kshetram iti avidiyate is referred to as a field. Here, the comparison, though, is specifically with the situation of the gṛhāśramaḥ, which is identified as karma-kṣetraṁ. Karma-kṣetra, the field of action, the field of activity, but also, of course, the word karma. Originally, the word karma had the sense of ritual action. You do ritual action with a purpose of getting some result. Specifically, you perform sacrifice. It takes on a broader sense, and it has the general sense of action, but it also has the sense of making, of producing, of making a result, of constructing, you can say, of making something. So karma-kṣetra is making, what is it making? It's making karma in the sense of that which comes about as a result of karma. There's the action and there's the result of the action, also known as karma-phala, fruit. So the plowing is the plowing of the field is an interesting way of thinking about. In this analogy, one might want to compare it to ending the family life, but we want to say then taking the renounced order. But of course, what is the plowing? It's preparing for more growing, for more result, growing of a field of whatever plants one is growing. But the verse is specifically making, it's not speaking of sannyasa specifically, but it is speaking of renunciation. Similarly, the grihasta ashram is a field of fruit of activity, unless the desire to enjoy family life is completely burned out. It grows up again and again. Even though camphor, Prabhupada in his translation says, may be removed from a pot, the pot nonetheless retains the aroma of camphor. So he's giving an additional example. And I wondered about this because there's nothing about camphor in the Sanskrit. So where is this coming from? So I did a little research, and it's in Sridhar Swami's commentary. Sridhar Swami specifically uses this example to emphasize, to underline. You have camphor in a pot, you take the camphor out, you smell the pot. What does it smell like? Camphor. And I checked Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary also. And he makes the same point, but not with camphor, but with hing. Why does he say hing instead of camphor? Maybe it was more common in his time than camphor. I don't. He uses hing. The point is, of course, the same, that something remains, but in this example of the field and so on, it's a bit different from the camphor and the hing example. Why? Because then something grows up again. What grows? Gulma-tṛṇa, and virud. Creepers and grass and bushes, everything other than what is wanted, what is intended to be grown, that is being sort of choked by what is wanted. All right, so we have the analogy, the example, and then we have in Srila Prabhupada's explanation, and he goes to the more immediate concern, if you like, within our society. He specifically mentions ISKCON, and he says sometimes in our society, ISKCON, a person out of sentiment may take sannyas. Yes, as I mentioned, we've seen that history. Some years ago, it was actually 10 years ago, little more than, 10 years ago. Over the years, devotees had been asking me why you're not taking sannyas. In 1988 already, Tamal Krishna Maharaj confronted me. He had a way of confronting devotees. And he said, why you haven't taken sannyas? And I didn't say anything. I just kind of didn't know what to say. And then he answered for me. He said, actually, that's okay. He said, Narada Muni was a brahmachari. And the 4 Kumaras, they're brahmacharis. So it's all right. And he walked away. And I sort of... but then about 10 years ago, I felt the time might be ripe when I should take this step. But I thought, let me consult with my seniors, sannyasi, godbrothers, and other sannyasis. And it was, I was fortunate to, the situation came at a kind of retreat in Serbia, in Southeast Europe, that we were many devotees coming together, including several sannyasis. So I went from one sannyasi to the other, expressing my thoughts that perhaps I would like to take this commitment. And I was asking for their opinions and possibly blessings to do so. And the first devotee, sannyasi, that I approached was His Holiness Gita Swami. And he was very kindly encouraging me and giving his blessings. And he told me a little story as an illustration, as an emphasis that you may take sannyas, but you still have to be careful. He said there was one devotee, I believe he was a brahmachari, who came to Srila Prabhupada. And he said, Srila Prabhupada, I have no sex desire. And Srila Prabhupada looked at him and he said, "Really? What's wrong with you?" So Jayapataka Swami's point was, desire will be there. And therefore one has to be very cautious. I also approached, I think there were 7 sannyasis there at the time. Each one after another I went to, and they were all very supportive. I remember Bhakti Vaibhava Swami said, "Yes, it's certainly time for you to take sannyas, but remember, every day you still have to surrender." So I thought I took that advice to heart, or I'm trying to take it to heart. The grihasta ashram is referred to here as karma-kṣetra. Why might this be? Well, the grihasta, the person standing in the house, literally. Sta means standing, situated. Gṛha means house. One who is situated in the home has many responsibilities, and these responsibilities are specifically and especially having to do with material energy, managing material energy, maintaining a situation for protection of others, protection for others in the family in particular. This is, of course, a very big responsibility, and I've always admired the grihastas for taking this responsibility. It involves a lot of work, and I always, for myself, thought, I don't think I can do all that work. But the position of the grihasta being one of responsibility is also one of controlling. And this can go against, it can work, it can be a point of resistance against what the devotee is attempting to develop, is a sense of recognizing that I am not the controller, Krishna is the controller. Now, at this point, one could say, well, the grihasta is different from the grihamedi, and that is certainly the case. Medha means intelligence, and also refer to sacrifice, and a medhi is one who is intelligent, has power of intelligence. In this context, though, it means one who we could say has turned his or her intelligence, engaging it only for this purpose, to maintain, to sustain the family. And because of these responsibilities, there is also the tendency to enclose oneself in a mentality which is narrower than the consciousness which what we're pursuing, Krishna consciousness, really calls for. As Srila Prabhupada explains, we consider first ourselves, the body, then the extensions of the body. And we're thinking of everything in relation to our own body. And this extends outward, possibly as far as our immediate community, possibly further to the town, the state, the country. And nowadays, people identify in some respects even with the planet. People are very concerned about the welfare of the planet, or at least they profess to be concerned about the planet. Right, so this enclosing of oneself is what we're trying to overcome in order to open ourselves to Krishna and Krishna consciousness, and open ourselves to caring not just for self, our immediate self and our extended self, but to actually care for all living beings. And of course, how do we do that is to get back to analogies. Yathā taror mula nishechanena tripyanti tatskanda bhujobhashaka. As one waters a tree by pouring water on the root rather than on the leaves and so on. Pranopaharatcha yatendriyanam tataiva sarvarhanam achyuteja. Achyuta is our concern, our interest. And as breathing, prana, it's sometimes translated feeding the stomach. Upaharam, prana is nourished by eating. So we eat through the stomach and benefit the entire body. So that process is what we want to do, and which the tendency of material life, which is to center around ourselves, is always working against. Whether we are in this ashram or that ashram is ultimately not the point, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Na ham vipro, na chanaravatir, na pivaisho, na shudro, na ham varni, na chagrivatir, no vanasto yatirva. First, he gives so many negations. I am not this, I'm not that, I'm not the other, I'm none of the four varnas, and I'm none of the four ashramas. Hintu, however, Prodya Nikila Paramananda Purnamritabde Gopi Vartu Padakamalayo Dasa Anudasa. He's emphasizing the position of servitude. Servant, I am a servant of the servant of the servant. Anudasa, however many times you want to multiply it, is suggested. Of the Bhartri, the can be translated as husband, but as the Lord of the gopis. So he identifies himself with the Lord, who is the Lord of who? The Lord of the gopis. And the gopis, what have they done to join Krishna in the rasa dance? They have completely given up their household situation with no guarantee, with no expectation that they can return. So they've taken sort of the ultimate risk. And this, we may want to say, is the point for us to reflect on today, is the risk that Krishna consciousness calls us to take. A risk which is always with a reward. Even if we take the risk only a little bit, even if we only take small steps in our risk-taking, but always in the direction toward Krishna, then whatever ashram we are in will be a nourishment of our spiritual life rather than a detriment. So, considering time and considering we have a very wonderful live audience with us today, perhaps I'll stop here and see if there are any comments or questions. Yes.
I have a question on the term grihasta sannyasa that Prabhupada used. First of all, Is it Shastra or is the history? It's also what did he mean by that? Why couldn't he use the term vanaprastha? Something which is another.
Interesting. Sarvatma Prabhu is asking, he's mentioning that Srila Prabhupada used the expression grihastha sannyasa. And it's a double question, whether that term is, to which I have to say, I don't know. And why would he use that term? Why not use the term vanaprastha? Well, here I have to guess. I'm guessing he wants to emphasize that those who are in the grihastha ashram, but who are, sometimes he would say, 100% engaged in Krishna consciousness. He wants to emphasize that this is a position which is as respectable, as honorable as that of the formal sannyasi. That's how I would take it. Also, the word sannyasa, which comes a few times in Bhagavad Gita, also sannyasinam, of those who are renounced. The emphasis in the Bhagavad Gita is not on sannyas as an ashram, but in the 5th chapter, Krishna says, karma yoga vishishyate. Karma yoga is superior to sannyasa. I would, now comes the guessing part, and Prabhupada says, no guessing. Prabhupada had in mind several of his grihastha disciples and their preaching activity. He was quite spiritually proud of the fact that it was 3 grihastha couples who went first to London and opened a temple in London. He would contrast, he would say, it's not the sannyasis did this, it's grihasthas who accomplished this. So it seems to me that he was emphasizing the value of the grihastha ashram as a position for preaching. I had for a long time considered as a nice analogy of how we understand the varna and ashram system in relation to bhakti and Krishna consciousness, as in the construction of a house or a building, you have a scaffolding, and that scaffolding is for the purpose of giving you positioning so you can do the construction. And once the construction work is over, you take down the scaffold. And then I heard or read, I believe I read, and I believe it was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur who uses that exact analogy. So the scaffolding is important when you're building a house or a larger structure. But once it's built, you don't leave the scaffolding up. There's no more need for it. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur spoke of Daivi Varnashrama, and it seems this was also his point, that it is used for supporting the practice of bhakti, and where it is not supportive, it's not needed. Or where it's not needed, the support is not needed. Is that all right? Yes, Rajali Lamadas.
Thank you so much. Firstly, thank you so much. You took amazing risks paying to give water to stay for a whole month.
Great risk to come to Gita Nagari. Thank you.
Thanks. I was a little curious about what you use as you reference fasting. And I'm asking this question only because I know how gentle and kind you are in every situation I see you. You use the word control. You said the husbands, they have this ability for control. And I guess my curiosity is sannyas, in terms of sannyas, they're expanded in their care of others. So it would seem to me that ability for control. And I guess I'm trying to get the connotation. What did you mean? How did you mean that? Yeah, when you use that word.
Rajalila Mataji is asking about connotation of the term control, which I used with reference to grihastha ashram. But you've opened up to a very interesting issue, which relates back, I think, to Srila Prabhupada's purport, in which he says, out of sentiment, some have taken the sannyas ashram, because within our society, unfortunately, I would say, there has been the sense that, I want to do more controlling within the society. How to do that? You have to become a sannyasi. Then you can start really controlling people. That then becomes a problem. It grows to a certain one way of understanding why that is. And this is something that's noted by anthropologists, that on the one side, sannyas means social suicide, which means also becoming socially marginalized voluntarily. Then what happens? The marginal position becomes the socially central position. This may be hard to grasp, but the sannyasis are in our society, maybe less in America than in Europe or in India, considered kind of the central core of the society. Well, that's a bigger topic, but so then being in that position, there is an expectation on one side of control by the person who's in the social center. There's expectation, and there's a lot of room for excess. And that's a reason that the sannyas ashram becomes sort of doubly dangerous, because it should be a position of renunciation, of nyasa. Some means complete, and nyasa means placement or position, putting aside, completely putting aside, shelving. It should be that, and yet the way social dynamics works, as you mentioned, one takes on a new sort of responsibility, particularly if one is put in a position of being designated as guru. Then the sannyasi, having renounced one family, ends up with a bigger family. With all of the concerns of all of those who are in this family. And this becomes quite, it can be a challenge in different ways. There are different kinds of control, of course, and what sannyas ashram should be about is self-control. more than any other sort of control. Recognizing Krishna's control as the actual control. Recognizing Krishna as the supreme controller and supreme enjoyer. Does that make some sense? Does that get at your concern?
I guess that applies also to grihastas if they see Krishna as essential.
Yeah. Right, so I'm watching the clock. I believe now we're supposed to end. I just want to say this is the beginning of Kartik, and I haven't spoken on this subject, but I understand that tomorrow I should speak again. Yeah. There seems to be some uncertainty here. Okay. In any case, we can discuss.
Huh?
Yeah, it's welcome to speak. I mean, based on your schedule, but Vladimir is asking me about class schedule, which
Right.
when you should do.
Oh.
Would be willing to give based on your schedule, goals that you've set. So we always
Hare Krishna. Well, let's see what happens. So we will end there. The RT plates are coming in for, I believe, Guru Puja at this time. And then we'll proceed with darshan and singing of Damodarashtakam. Yes. So stay tuned. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.